Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Life Coach Live. Joined today by myself, Paul Heron, and my co-host, as normal, Tyler Nouns. And today he's going to be following on, I think, from the conversation that we had last Thursday, where we spoke about the three powers of being that can really help drive our momentum towards the vision that we are looking to create. Just as a recap, those three powers were the power of feeling, the power of thinking, and the power of action. Now, I wanted to also raise a little pattern, I guess, that I've noticed over the last little while. I've spoken with a number of coaches who are at that stage where they've come out the other side of a training program. You know, they feel like they're ready to embark on this coaching journey and start taking those first few steps towards creating the vision that they've got in their mind that they want to create, but don't feel like they've got the confidence to start taking action towards making that a reality. And I thought today might be a really good opportunity for us to have a look at how these three powers that we've been talking about play a role in our ability to be able to put into perspective and identify what it is that we need to be doing and how we need to be going about it, I think, more than anything else. Sorry, Tyler, I might just take this opportunity to quickly introduce yourself and to say hello. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Paul. It's great to be here as usual with you, talking about life coaching and some of the causes and effects of what it means to be successful and what it means to fulfill our vision as a successful life coach, and also to really get in alignment with our identity as a life coach, and also continue to commit to our mission and fulfilling our goals on a regular basis. And again, all back in alignment with your identity and your vision for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. You know, this idea of identity and who it is that we are and how we go about creating the things that are important to us, I think is something that's critical. In this thing that's been on my mind, this topic of confidence, you know, how do we develop a sense of confidence as a coach when we're starting out? And I think that is the conundrum that so many coaches that are about to embark on their journey are facing. As a coach, we want to be delivering a high quality service. You know, it is it's ourselves in many ways that we're putting on the line when we start this journey. We want to be as skilled as we possibly can. You know, we want to feel that we're ready to deliver and to stand up and perform. But the challenge that we have is, how do we get that level of confidence, or how do we feel like we're confident and ready before we even begin? I'm curious to ask you, Tyler. I know we've spoken a few times throughout the sessions that we've done recently. So first off, we started talking about vision and how important having a clear vision is. And I totally agree. I think, you know, knowing what it is that we want to work towards and create. And I think most importantly, why this thing is so important to us. So having this clear vision of what it is that we are looking to create. I'm curious to ask Tyler your thoughts on how we can start to apply these three powers of feeling, thinking, and action to enable ourselves to I keep wanting to say feel ready. And I know that's not quite the right thing to say, because we can never be ready to do something that we've never done before. But how can we start to apply some of these three powers to enable us to start taking those first crucial steps?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. Confidence as a life coach when starting out. Right. And so even before, and we touched on this quite extensively on Thursday, even before we get to vision, what do we want as a life coach for ourselves? We're at the identity level. Okay. And so when we're starting out, why are we lacking confidence as a life coach? Because we're just starting out. Our identity as a life coach hasn't really formed yet. It hasn't really blossomed yet. We're like a seed that is not visible. It's under the ground. And we're going, how do we get this damn thing to sprout and flower? Right? And become full and bloom and blossom and provide, fruits, if you will. Excuse the analogy here. And so, and that's, right off the hop, Paul, I'd say the reason why our confidence lacks as a life coach at the beginning is because of our identity as a life coach. And, and I'm going to let you say, I'm going to put it back to you and say, well, how do we develop that confidence as a life coach?
I love what you have touched on there, identity as a life coach. I can clearly remember the first couple of conversations that I ever had where I introduced myself to someone new as a life coach. It seems like so long ago now, but that is one of the biggest hurdles that we need to be able to get past. And I think each of us is going to be very different in terms of when we can start to even consider ourselves a life coach and what needs to happen for us to be able to get to that place. Some of us are going to have to go through multiple training courses. They're going to have to do much more practice and training than others. Some of us will be able to get there sooner. Some of us maybe have the ability within us to be able to identify ourselves as a beginner in this adventure, a beginner, but nonetheless a life coach at the same time. I think if we've started that journey towards helping other people identify challenges, helping them make progress towards their vision, their goals, I think the moment that we start embodying ourselves as the person that's helping these people to be able to make these transformations within themselves, I think that is the moment that we should be able to reflect back on ourselves as the coach that's helping them to start make that progress. It is an interesting one though, because I've spoken to many people at various different stages who have really struggled with this particular problem. There are very experienced coaches that I have spoken with that have been coaching for years that still have an element of imposter syndrome and a fear of being found out, which I think is, in some ways, I can look at it from all angles, and in some ways, I know where this is coming from. We want to be the best versions of a coach that we possibly can be. We want to be we want to be well educated. We want to be able to provide the most valuable assistance that only comes from putting in the hours that are required to be able to gain that experience. But the only way we can get to that place is by giving ourselves permission to be the beginner and just get started. And, I think that's where the challenge lies. How do we allow ourselves to identify as a coach, to be able to make offers out to the world as a coach when we've got limited experience. How did you find that process for yourself, Tyler, when you were going through that phase?
Yeah, it's interesting because often our identity is at the physical level, and that's primarily, if it doesn't happen in the physical realm, then somehow it's not real. So unless I actually see myself as a coach, coaching clients, and the clients are paying me and the clients seem to be receiving some benefit, and unless that happens, it's very difficult for me to really, buy into the full identity of me being a life coach. So, at that beginning phase, when I was listening to you, Paul, I think it's good to remind yourself at the beginning of why is it that you want to be a life coach in the first place. And it's very likely that you've observed yourself helping people, and you have observed other people being receptive to your support and your guidance and thanking you for helping them. And so, there's probably a part of you that's already doing this, but you're doing it just as who you are. You don't need to have an identity as a life coach in order to help somebody, right? And so, as soon as you say life coach, then you start looking at other life coaches and say, well, I'm not like this person, I'm not like that person. Oh, so I must not be a life coach. Well, you've already been a life coach. It's just you didn't set up shop, you didn't start a business, you didn't have a business name, you didn't have invoices and do some sort of a meeting and where you present your services or whatever. You didn't go through all that. It just all happened very spontaneously, right? And so I think the biggest, and I'll just speak for myself here, Paul, the biggest hurdle for me was not in my ability to support and help people. It was in my identity as a life coach, because I didn't present myself to the world as a life coach. And so, once I went through the process of actually getting clients, having clients, serving clients, invoicing clients, having them pay me, getting a testimonial or from clients, then it starts to make it more real, but there's a lot of obstacles in the way, a lot of fears and resistance and uncertainties and unknowns. And unfortunately, you have to go through it. You can't really bypass whatever is preventing you from stepping forward towards the fulfillment of your vision. Whatever's stopping you, you're going to have to face it and go through it. It would be great if we could just sweep it under the carpet and pretend it's not there and make it go away. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. And then on top of this, Paul, one more thing. By you understanding the process of facing your resistance and your fears and your whatever it is that's preventing you from stepping forward towards the fulfillment of your vision, by you actually going through the process, that is the essential ingredient that's needed in order for you to be a life coach for others who are going through the exact same problem.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well said, Tyler. I think that's a fantastic way to put the identity question into perspective. I think it's, the big thing here for me is understanding your vision and understanding your why. And if we can get those pieces right, then the question becomes, what are we willing to give to enable this to become a reality? And, that was one of the big shifts from, the work we've been doing around these three powers. Instead of the focus being on what we need to get or what we want to get, really flipping that around and looking at it as in, what am I going to give? And there is so much that we have at our disposal to be able to give, even as an absolute complete beginner in this process. We have the ability to be able to really think through what is required. We're able to check in emotionally. What are we capable of doing in this moment? Maybe we're not ready to just completely jump in the deep end. That's okay. But, what are we willing to give right now? What are we willing to give to ourselves? What are we willing to give to potential clients that we are talking to? What are we willing to give to our business? What steps are we willing to commit ourselves to taking, and what are we willing to give to making these things happen? And, I've thought a lot, this framework of the three powers is something that was relatively new to me. But I've found myself reflecting on these three powers a lot myself over the last couple of weeks, Tyler. It's, the ability to be able to endure what's required for us to be able to hit our vision. There's a lot of trial and error in many ways. There's a lot of, testing to see what works. Both works from what works from a physical point of view of the results that are being achieved, but also what works for you emotionally and internally, and what's aligned with who you are as a person and as a coach. And, I keep thinking about the distinction between, wanting to stay safe and comfortable and, its opposite, which is leaning into that idea of, what am I willing and going to give to make this thing that's so important to me a reality. And, if we are able to implement that type of thinking and that type of mindset, then, then we just focus on our vision. We know what and why. We know why this is so important to us and what it is that we're trying to create. And then it just becomes, we've spoken previously about tools that we can apply to break down goals and all this type of stuff. But even the more I think about it, is that even necessary? Just pick something that's aligned with your vision and make a commitment to yourself to step out of the comfort zone and start taking meaningful action towards that vision of yours and see what happens. We can't predict the future. We don't know how anything is going to go, particularly when we're the beginner. When we're the complete beginner at something, chances are it's probably not going to go the way we thought it was going to be. And that's okay. It's about continuously remaining aligned with our vision and picking something meaningful to take meaningful action towards on a regular, consistent basis. And, if I look back at the progress that I've made over the last few years, there's definitely been ups and downs, and there's been periods in time when I've made more progress than others. But if I look at the times that I have made the most progress, it's when I've come back to those basics. I might not have been thinking about it in that same terminology or that same framework, but it was always those basics of really knowing what's most important to me and continuing to push myself out of my comfort zone, leaning into the discomfort that comes with doing some of this stuff that's new to us, continuously working on developing a healthy relationship with myself, and being open and curious as much as I can. And I think, this framework that we've put together, Tyler, I think is a really good way for us to be able to just help us, identify some of the things that probably does require a little bit of focus and attention in order for us to be able to identify what some of these things are that we're experiencing. The feelings and emotions that are popping up, the thoughts, our ability to be able to lean in and complete the actions that we commit ourselves to. I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I think one of the things that I heard is that at some point we have to give up our fear of making a mistake. And I would go as far as to say that we evolve when we make mistakes. And, that's how we transform, and that's how we grow, and that's how we learn, and that's how we become, and that's how we fulfill our vision. And the reason why identity work is so important, Paul, is because you have to know who you are, and you have to be certain, and you have to be confident about it. And I'm not talking about being a life coach. I'm talking about who you are as a person in reality, in truth. Okay? Because the conditioning has been, when we make mistakes, Paul, we're a failure. We're a loser. Okay? If you have certainty in who you really are, then when you make a mistake, you're not consumed by these dark beliefs and feelings that somehow this makes me a failure and a loser and I'll never be good enough and blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, that's, I think, why in terms of the framework, the identity part is so essential. Without it, then you're going to get lost in the external results. The external results dictate who and what I am. Well, I didn't get any clients, so therefore I'm not a successful life coach. Now, if you have that identity or that feeling or that belief, those thoughts that I'm not a successful life coach, well, guess what? Is that in alignment with your vision of being a successful life coach? So that's how it works. That's why it's to counteract all of the defeating emotions that we encounter. It's to counteract all of the limiting beliefs that we've placed upon ourselves. We have to find an inner strength as being the source and cause for what we want to do and be, how we want to live and fulfill our life, or fulfill our calling. So, yeah, anyways, this is good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. It's I couldn't agree more, and you're spot on. That's exactly what I was leaning or pointing towards there. That relationship with fear and failure. Most of us who are embarking on this journey are moving from an employee-employer situation where we're kind of told what to do on a daily basis. We don't have to really think about what it is that we need to be doing. There's always someone above us that can take responsibility if we need them. Bit of a safety blanket there if we need it. For most of us entering in this path of becoming a coach and establishing a business, for most of us, it's our first opportunity. I know it was for me. I know you were different, Tyler, and I know that there's, many of us that are in sort of slightly different situations. But for a lot of us, it is the first time embarking on an adventure like this. And that transition between having that safety blanket and being fully responsible for every single decision, every single goal that's set, being fully responsible for the vision itself and all the action that's taken in line with that vision is I was going to say challenging, but I don't think I want to say challenging. I want to say it's a fantastic opportunity for us to embark on, but it's not always going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. In fact, it's going to require us to be pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone, to be trying new things, to be figuring stuff out, to be problem solving, to be thinking outside the box. It's going to require a lot of trial and error. And some things will work. Some things will work, and we can double down on those things that do go to plan and develop systems and processes around that. And a lot of things won't go to plan. So I would almost be challenging anybody listening to be seeking out failure in many ways. If you've failed at something today, you have taken meaningful action towards your vision. And I think that is something to be celebrated rather than something to be judgmental or ashamed of. And I think you're spot on, Tyler. It is very much related to our programming, to our sense of self and identity. But I think it's very much about starting that process of redefining who it is that we are, and to be looking for evidence to support some new beliefs, potentially. We have within us everything that we need to be able to take the next step. And, if we can develop that sense of belief that we do have what we need to take that next step, that we do have, whatever the result, whatever the obstacle that falls across the path, we've got what we need to be able to get around it, to get over it, to continue on our path, to pivot, to adjust, to update the plan if we need to. But we've got what it takes to be able to lean in with curiosity to things that don't go to plan and learn the valuable lessons that are there to be learnt from each experience that we have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, one of the things that I needed in order to take the next step was to actually join how you and I met through an entrepreneurial school for life coaches. I needed to take that step and join that and become part of the community. I've worked as a solopreneur for many years. I've been doing this for 30 plus years as a marketing consultant and design expert. And as a solopreneur, it's good, but in terms of getting support in a new venture of becoming a life coach, it wasn't something that I could do on my own. I needed to learn from other life coaches that were further ahead down the life coach journey, if you will, than I was. And it was such a great support and learning opportunity for me. I got to do things and try things in a safe environment, particularly at first. That was really important. And as I slowly built that, faced my, resistance or my fears, slowly I had the courage to take on bigger so-called risks, which now, a couple of years later, I don't even think about, but at the time it was like, I've just got to do it. I've been resisting this and I've been avoiding this, and it's been something that I want to do. It's something I know I need to do. why aren't I doing it? I've just got to do it. And you do that a few times, and all of a sudden, it becomes a lot easier. And then it also increases your perspective. So now you begin to see things on the other side of your resistance that you were unwilling to go through. Now that on the other side, you see a whole new horizon and a whole new set of opportunities and challenges that you are now. And once I saw the new challenges and opportunities, I had more courage and confidence that I could actually face them. So it wasn't as daunting, even though the challenge might have been a bigger challenge, it actually got easier because I had the confidence from and support from doing the first ones. It always seems like the first ones are the hardest ones, but once you get through, I don't know, is that how it was for you, Paul? Like at the beginning, it was the hardest, or?
I think so. I think whenever you're starting out in something, getting started, getting in motion is the most challenging part. For me, it is anyway. And I know that I've got this tendency to really want to overthink and to think myself to being ready. And going through that experience of e-school that you mentioned there, probably my biggest takeaway from that was, we cannot think ourselves to being ready for anything. If we're the beginner, we're the beginner. And the only way we're going to start to grow and develop in the direction of something that we're passionate about is by taking meaningful action towards that goal, and giving ourselves permission to be the beginner, becoming really clear on our vision and our why, I think is hugely important. And I think the more that you can gain clarity on the why and the vision, the more trust and certainty you can develop within to be able to start to pull yourself out of the comfort zone. Look, that's huge. And this is stuff that we want to continue to explore and expand on. I think my biggest takeaway from this talk today has been, that this is the inner work. What you spoke about so well last week, Tyler, was the framework for, flipping things on its head, no longer looking at external results that we want to be driving towards, looking at what we want to and what we're able to give towards making our goals a reality or our vision a reality. And I think it's powerful stuff. Look, I think that's probably all we've got time for today. So I just want to take a moment just to say thank you, Tyler. Thank you for sharing the framework that you shared last week. I know we've got some workshops actually that we're looking to sort of put out in the near future. So keep an eye out for them. And, it's this type of stuff that we're going to be exploring further, identifying what your vision is, how we can start doing some of this inner work to allow ourselves to, be able to start making that forward momentum that we're looking for. So look, as I say, I think that's about it for now. Do you have anything to add, Tyler?
No, it was a great conversation, Paul. It was great, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow and continuing the conversation.
Absolutely. All right, guys, bye for now, and we'll be back again tomorrow night. Bye.